Maybe we'll give them another. Let's see. It's like the microwave popcorn. Do you start? Do you stop it? Like, see, we didn't start too early. All right. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. Hope everyone's doing well. My name is Satina Ciandro, and you're going to be learning more about me later on. But I am a high school science teacher. I teach marine biology and environmental science. And I have I don't even know if I can, I guess she is a colleague, but for me, she's more of a mentor. Amity Sandage is also here, and we are going to get started.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to start off with just a quick overview. Purpose for the session. We really want this session to inspire more climate justice education in schools that will lead to students having more hope and empowerment to take action. So that's our hope for this session. And the agenda in a nutshell is a quick connector just for us all to get on thinking about this topic, and then some background context on what led to the work that Satina is going to share with you in the third section, which is the real world example of what this work can look like in a classroom. And then we'll close with how to access that and other resources and Q&A. So first, getting to connect with each other around this topic. Satina and I were talking about this, and she shared this awesome tool she found in one of the many resources that we've looked at on these topics that comes from, oh shoot, now I just blanked on her name. She's the author of her name's Ayanna Johnson, and she's the editor of All We Can Save, that anthology, that best-selling anthology, and just an amazing policy expert, writer, activist. And she brought this concept of a climate action Venn diagram, thinking that rather than all of us trying to do the same list of climate actions, what would have a much greater impact is if we leverage the individual talents and passions of each person. And so this Venn diagram encourages you to think about what you are good at, like what's your superpowers, your skills, your resources, your networks that you can access, and what brings you joy that will sustain you. And then what is the work that needs doing, and look for the intersection. And if everybody did that, we'd be able to accomplish so much more. And so there's a TED Talk linked in the slide that you can watch another time, super inspiring, and a PDF handout of this Venn that can be filled in if you wanted to use it with students. But I encourage you now to just grab a pencil and paper and think about these circles, make your own, and we're going to pop you into breakout rooms to just share with each other for just in pairs, a quick share. Don't expect you to fill out everything in this, just to start thinking about it. So go ahead and get started. And if you don't have a pen and paper, you can just look at the example. And then there are some questions that go with each circle that can help with the brainstorming. And I will make the breakout rooms, and we'll just do pairs for a quick pair share. Okay, here we go. Let's just have like maybe 4 minutes in there. Go ahead and join your room and share what came up for you looking at that Venn.
We had a question.
Yeah, if you can't join, you could just hang back and we can chat with you about it.
Yeah.
Or if you can't use audio right now, you can just work on that Venn diagram for yourself. while you wait. I'm not sure if you have an audio issue. Yeah, I can't do I can't do sound right now. That's fine.
Call from 9283771.
And Dilwara, if you want to share in the chat, it's fine if you're just wanting to do your own thing with the Venn, but if you wanted to communicate with someone else about any thoughts that brings up, feel free to use the chat and we can talk and chat with you that way, but no pressure. And I'm going to be bringing them back pretty soon. I looked at like 9:41 was going to be 4 minutes when they went in.
Perfect.
Yeah, so pretty close to on schedule. Oh, like the way it hits multiple modalities. Oh, that's you, Satina, not Dilwara.
That's me. That's
Yep.
me.
Yep. I know. I had fun filling one out. Oh yeah, we knew you wouldn't be able to talk, Dilwara. We were just saying feel free to write in the chat if you wanted to talk about it. Great. Okay, I'm going to close rooms. Bring people, because it takes a little bit of time for them to close.
Yeah. Sometimes you use the last 10 seconds to talk.
Yeah, exactly. And then I've got to put these things in the chat. Okay, everybody's back.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yeah, welcome back. I hope that was an interesting conversation with folks. I'm just going to put the links in the chat to those resources. They're also linked in the slides. And we're just going to keep moving because the sessions are really short, but hopefully at the end we'll have time to come back and talk more as a large group about that Venn diagram concept. And when we talked about background context on how we got here, I realized, oh, actually, I'll do the Venn because this was my realization was, yeah, that's how I ended up here. Like when I looked at what goes in that Venn for me, the natural climate action is to build a community of teacher leaders who can demonstrate how environmental and climate education can be a superpower for making all content area learning more relevant, more engaging, and more empowering for students. And then I'm also positioned to be able to put together partnerships to try to implement that at scale in a county across the K through 12 system. And when I thought about Satina, I thought about her love of unit design and how that gives her so much joy, and her incredible depth of expertise from all the different training programs she's taken part in her career. And then this need she saw for trauma informed practices to be integrated to be able to empower teachers to teach this really difficult stuff. And I feel like that ended up in as part of what her action was that she's going to share with you. So the background on the program that Satina is a part of, one of many you'll find out, is our Every Classroom a Green Classroom initiative, which really is looking across the school system with this lens of 3 pillars. The community and culture pillar, where we want nature connection and stewardship to grow, the curriculum pillar, where we want integration of climate education and action into the curriculum, and the campus pillar, where we're changing actual facilities and trying to have those intersect so that students' curriculum experiences impact their campus. And the goal of the Teacher Leadership Institute for Sustainability is to build the educators' capacity for doing this work, for integrating the content and the sustainability action projects into core instruction, no matter what their content area. And through doing that, we'll have more equitable access to the education that will lead to sustainability. We'll have more outdoor learning by bringing in community partners and empower students to really make a difference in their community and campus sustainability. And the work happens on a continuum, we like to think about, so that there's room for everybody under the umbrella. The teachers who are just ready to like try supplementing and figuring out how to do this at the mild level, we call it, and then the spicy level, like transformative problem-based classrooms where students are really deciding on what the projects will be and researching and carrying them out, and then everything in between, from like having one solid unit that has integration, or having a lot more of student-driven integration.
No.
So
I'm-
the there we go. And the key elements in the program I touched on already: the community of learners and nature connection. I just wanted to share a couple ways that people in the program, these important components of creating a shared understanding of the crisis. You can't assume that everybody actually is on the same page about that. And then using trauma-informed practices when you do that, because it's really heavy stuff. And then moving quickly to empowering through action and solutions, like solutions. And so one tool we used to share and get on the same page was CalEnviroScreen. We looked at our county and that site. You can look at your own county, your own, right down to the census tracts, to look at what is the pollution burden across air, water, hazardous waste. It's all combined, or you can pull the data apart and the population characteristics to see which communities are the most disproportionately burdened by sources of pollution and by environmental health hazards. And while you're doing that, you have to be trauma informed, because students will be learning possibly that they have a bigger burden than others in their community. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a sec. The other thing we did to get on the same page was a climate impacts simulation that used real data projecting the changes in 2035, 2045 of high heat days, big storm events, rainfall. And so again, using real data for us to all be on the same page, and to really help people shift toward being proactive instead of reactive. Knowing that something's coming, you're empowered to think about how can we be prepared. And the trauma-informed practices that were built in were a range of activities that help the teachers themselves build self-awareness and self-management around the emotions that come up when you're learning about these problems, and then feeling how doing it as a group together actually helps, that you realize everyone's having these emotions and you can support one another to get through it and become more resilient as a community. And then how important it is to focus on the solutions and not leave that till the end and run out of time. And so that is what you'll see that was pulled in so beautifully by Satina in her unit. So I'm going to turn it over to her to share the details. And I'll put some of those links to those resources I just mentioned in the chat.
All right. So next slide. Thanks, Amity. So I'm going to try not to go like too caffeine enriched too fast through this, but I do want to have, to me, it's more important to have some time for you to ask questions. So please feel free to ask questions in the chat, and if it's not being clear, but then also, like I said, I'm going to try to go quickly so that we can get more to the question part. So I have been teaching at Watsonville High School for 25 years. I did my student teaching and didn't leave. Just love the community and love the kids there. I have a biological science background, going to Hartnell and UC Davis, very much marine focused in invertebrate zoology. I studied at Moss Landing Marine Labs, and then got my credential at San Jose State. And then as a teacher, from when I began to when to still now, very much having a literacy lens, and now kind of focusing that also on environmental literacy. Next slide. So as Amity alluded to, I don't say no to doing cool stuff. So for many years, I was part of a program at the Monterey Bay Aquarium called the Watch Program. But I've also done some of their other teacher leadership programs like ocean plastic pollution and the climate action project pathways that they do in the summer and year long. And one of the things that I did is I came across, well, not come across, but the author was one of our, of All the Feelings Under the Sun, was one of our guests. And for me, even though I've been teaching for a long time, I kind of was that teacher who kind of put off the climate change talk because it was so, and curriculum more than just talk, because it was so overwhelming for me personally. Like, how can I make a difference? And I just wasn't informed about all the curriculum that's out there, all the solutions that are out there. And so for me, having that, having a text like All the Feelings Under the Sun as a guide to kind of teach it and do trauma-informed practices has really helped me. And I did that not this school year, but the last school year. And then I also, as part of that, the time at the aquarium, we used to use a program called Tuva. And so you'll see why that's important in a moment. So I was familiar with that platform. And then last summer, I participated in a NSF grant. I still am participating, but an NSF grant with Dr. Tammy V from San Jose State University. And so I got the time and the privilege to be able to plan a whole unit around urban heat islands and extreme heat. And so that's kind of where all of this, all the pieces kind of came together for me. Next slide. So what I did in my classes is I teach seniors environmental resources too. They're in a CTE pathway and also in California Partnership Academy. And I used the idea of urban heat islands and Tuva as a model for them about what climate action could look like, so that for the second semester, they could plan and do their own climate action. Go ahead, next slide. And so the process that we did for this, I used the phenomenon process that's very common in science. And I showed them some different images and experiences, and I made them do I notice and I wonder and I think it means, as an into. For the urban he, urban heat islands, I knew what that meant. Like I knew what an urban heat island was, but I didn't really until I did the program this summer. I didn't really understand the the how much it related to redlining and past environmental injustices. I just didn't know that piece of it, so I was learning with the kids along with them. And then another unfortunate thing, right before we were doing this unit, it was our heat wave at school. And so the kids also collected surface and air temperature around campus. And as we went through the unit, they kind of monitored their own little spot to do that. All right, next slide. And so I hope this is not too complicated, but so as Amity alluded to, I really like the curriculum building. I like to draw from my experiences and the things that I know, the literacy and different things. And so as I got to build this unit, I used a basic, not basic, but I used a lesson from Subject to Climate. And I thought, oh, this is a middle school lesson. The high schoolers, will be great. This will be great for them. And it's a really good lesson, and I do recommend it. But the part that was missing for me is it didn't have those solutions. The end, it said, have the students decide how they could fix this. And I'm like, it put it all on them to figure out the solution. And so I added to that main thing with different learnings, using Nucella and an Avid strategy called Focus Notes. I brought in guest speaker from the city talking about urban forestry. But along the lines, as we're doing this unit, I made sure to have different trauma-informed practices so the students could process what they're learning and how they're feeling. The main thing I personally learned from the pandemic is that the content's not as important as the social emotional, the feelings that the students have about what they're learning. And so for me, it was a perfect fit. So some of the social emotional things we did is we made a word cloud, and it was pretty easy to do on a Google Doc. So the kids, how they were feeling as they were learning about these different scenarios, true life scenarios that had happened. I do a lot of journaling, so they were going outside and doing different journaling, modeling, and the picture you see there is one from All the Feelings Under the Sun about color your feelings. So try to use less words, but just show how you feel about different things. And then I also did an eco grief lesson, and I just find that acknowledging all the things that they are feeling as they're doing a unit like this is super important. This is where Tuva Labs comes back in the summer. Tuva, it's a platform, a digital platform. It's a freemium. So there's lots of lessons that are free, but there's a lot that they want you to pay for, the premium package. The lesson I'm talking about is a freemium. They kept it that way, but they asked to interview me because they knew me before from my watch work and using Tuva in my classes. And I said, sure, you can interview me, but I want some data. So they went out and found the data from the 1930s and put it on the website so that my students could use some of the canopy cover and some of the data that goes along with redlining. Next slide. And then, so as I said, I use this as a model for my high school students. And so their overall final was to create a podcast using the format from KQED, show what you know. Very not necessarily solutions at this point, but just like tell me what you know about urban heat islands. And so students created podcasts for that. They when Tuva made their lesson, it didn't have enough. I don't know how to say it. I'll just be blunt. It was very much whitewashed and watered down. The introduction of what urban heat islands were, how they came to be. They barely talked about what redlining was, and I understand that they had to create a lesson for a broad audience that they want to use their data. But I was like, and I even had the kids give me feedback. I'm like, read this introduction. Is this strong enough language? Do you feel like they're really saying what the topic is? And a lot of my students were like, no, they should say this, they should say this. And so I actually had them rewrite. Tuva actually, for my lesson that I created, they rewrote the introduction to have stronger language in it, so that social prejudice was at least acknowledged in that part of it. So that was a good highlight that the students were directly involved in that. You could see two of my students that participated in our city and our Watsonville Wetlands Watch. They have a grant to help do urban reforestation, and so they took their Saturday and they went and helped plant trees. We recently went on a restoration also with Watsonville Wetlands Watch. And the whole process for me was to use this as a model so that in the second semester, they would come up with their own climate action project, which I know it's super tiny in the corner, but those were the topics that we narrowed it down to. And some are still talking about urban heat. Some are working on trash. Some are working on working with getting our school green certified. Some are working on a garden that we have. And so they're now working on that. And for those of you that teach high school, if your district hasn't moved forward with the state seal of civic engagement, that's one takeaway. If they or find out what your district is doing for that, they're going to use my students as a pilot, because about half of them now have done the requirements, or they will have by next weekend, to receive their state seal of civic engagement. It'll be actually a seal on their diploma, and it's similar to the seal of biliteracy. And so it's a wonderful thing for students who are doing projects already to get credit for those civic actions that they're doing, and it's something that can help them with scholarships and things like that. There was a question about the links. Yes, everything should be accessible. If there are things that are linked that I haven't made public, always feel free to ask for that, and I can do that. Next slide. So through all these things, the programs at the aquarium, all this new learning, I just love this quote from the author, Elin Kensley, just that hope is not complacent. It's a powerful political act. And I remind my students of that all the time. I try to help them to have their own hope. These are the young change makers of the future. And so I just want to instill that in them. All right, next slide. So there is the link to the slide deck and to the unit. What you see there, what I call an entry doc, is from problem-based learning philosophy. And it's what the students saw as we went through the unit and how I kept track of everything.
Do you want me to click over to that, Satina, to show people?
Yeah, you can. That'd be great. And so you can see things are crossed off because those things happened already. But if you just scroll down to the days, Amity. So each day I just kind of said what we did. There's way more than what is on this list on the teacher end and the planning. So if you need more than what the students saw, please don't feel free to reach out to me and I can share you more. My spreadsheet is like all the things I wanted to do versus all the things that I actually had time to do as you go through a unit for the first time is always different. All right, I think we're ready for the next slide. And then I'll let Amity talk about these resources.
Yeah, these are just some of the resources that are broader than Satina's unit resources, but some of them are the sources of those, or they just have additional separate ones. Like this Space website is where that whole Venn diagram, the path that led to finding that, I believe, was through there. And so that's a space that's devoted to helping integrate climate action and learning with social emotional aspects of dealing with the content. And there's many paths you can take. It's very self-directed and leads to resources and videos and projects and ideas. I just wanted to make sure people here know about the California Environmental Literacy Initiative. That's the acronym CALI, which is the statewide collective action network that is working on implementation of the California Blueprint for Environmental Literacy. And that group has created a teacher call to action toolkit, which has tons of hyperlinked resources within it, as well as a kind of roadmap to doing this work to implementation. And that's where our little implementation continuum came from. Sorry, that's taking so long to load. But so this document has like imperatives, like why should we be doing the work, which can be really helpful to use with different audiences to convince them why this is important, and also to just get on the same page about what is this work, because people don't all have the same ideas about what we're talking about when we're talking about environmental literacy or climate literacy. And then examples from the field. So you heard Satina's story, so there's more stories of what this work looks like, and then the roadmap section. And then Callie also, Satina mentioned students in her high school getting credit for some of these things they're doing that goes toward them getting the state seal of civic engagement on their graduation, upon graduation. And there's a whole guide to implementing the state seal of civic engagement in districts with an environmental literacy lens toolkit as well, if you want to share that back at your districts, or just use it to mine it for the links and resources. There's a community-based partner network toolkit that can help give strategies for reaching out and building relationships with community-based partners who can really add capacity to the school system. All those non-formal education groups that have expertise in local environmental issues and also sometimes have expertise in leading outdoor learning experiential programs that a classroom teacher might not have as much experience with. And then all the Cali resources are under this link from the County Office of Education Innovation Hub resource page. I linked that because in addition to the toolkits, there are some webinars that are archived that are trainings on using the toolkits. So if you wanted to use those recordings, you could access more information about the toolkits and have somebody walk you through them in those webinars. And then the Yale program on climate change communication has tons of searchable database of tools and interactives that can be used as well. So just wanted to share those resources. And then we actually have time for more specific Q&A, we didn't want to just use the whole time downloading information. Want to make sure we give people a chance to ask questions, and then we can also go back into little breakout rooms to reflect again on our Venn diagram. But before we do that, any questions for the whole group?
We need at least 3, just like with this kids, at least 3 questions or comments is fine.
That's a good one. Nice strategy.
Santina, could you go into a little more depth about Tuva? I'm not familiar with it.
So Tuva is a platform. Like I said, it's like a freemium platform. It's data driven. It has different sections, and maybe Amity, I could either go to Tuva. I could probably go to Tuva real fast just to show you what it looks like. I think I put it in my slides. So it's a data-driven platform, and let me find the actual Tuva. If I log in, it'll look a little different because I'll just do it. And I go back here. Okay, so you'll have to let me know if it's working because I can't see the screen once I go to it. And so, oh wow, there's me, scary. So Tuva is a platform. I'll go to the main dashboard first. And you could set up classes for it. And they have that go directly with Google Classroom if you want to do that. It also has, I'm sorry, it's taking a long time to load. It has a content library where you could search for different content. So you can see my classes. I can assign different assignments through that. They have math, they have science, they have different collections. You can search the free lessons, but you can see that the free lessons are very much less than the premium. But my academy, luckily, will pay for me to have it. It's about, I want to say it's about $250 for one teacher for a year. So you have to be kind of committed to it if you're willing to spend your funds for that. And so what happens on Tuva that I love so much, besides that they make lessons for you, they have lessons already created. They'll give an introduction. Then they will have this data set. So you can kind of see the data set. And you can drag and drop and create all different kinds of data. And so the lessons will walk you through that for the students. So for example, let's say I wanted to put which neighborhood grade that they were given versus land surface temperature. And then I can decide what type of graph I would like to make. And here I'll make the traditional box plot. And I'm sorry if I'm going fast. I just want to show you as much as I can. Let's see. I want to put this on grade. Let's see how to do that. There we go. So then you can see from this that the higher grade neighborhoods have a lower land surface temperature than the lower grade neighborhoods. And so what this means for climate action is that if we go into these D neighborhoods and plant more trees and do more urban forestry, that we can actually reduce the temperatures by more than if we go into those neighborhoods that are already kind of tree covered. That was for my lesson, but there's lots of other Tuva lessons.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, yeah. All right, 2 more. I know it's Saturday morning, so maybe we'll just do 1 more.
Hello, I'll ask.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I can't get my video to work for some reason. I'm gonna have to call Geek Squad or something. I'm a second grade teacher, first year, and I was just wondering, for me, it's very overwhelming, all the information, which I appreciate though. A good obstacle to be in. Do you have a recommendation, as we're getting closer to Earth Day, for which resource would be good for second graders? Something we could do in class. And at our school, we typically take the whole week to really dive into experiments like this. But I feel like it's kind of, we don't really have the guidance on an end goal as a whole school. So I'm kind of trying to lead that. I know in our class, we try to reduce our waste and we try to recycle as much as possible. But do you have a recommendation for which of these resources would be best to look at for activities for second graders?
Yeah. Well, Satina, I don't know if you want to add anything. You're at
I
high school, so
was, I was gonna say, the book, I Am One. So if I'll put that in the chat and then I'll let Amity answer for the rest.
okay, great. And I'm just gonna drop in our Teacher Leadership Institute website and maybe share my screen again to here we go. So the Institute works with TK through 12th grade teachers. And so these ones won't have necessarily all have the resources linked, but for ideas of different ways that teachers of younger grades are approaching this work, you can go and look at the green classroom profiles that teachers have created after doing their action projects with students, from like Megan Albano's TK went in and they did a little trash audit in their classroom trash and found that most of what they were throwing away was paper towels from washing hands and Kleenexes, and they decided they needed Kleenexes to be in the trash, but hand washing, they ended up getting all the students have their own little hand towel, like a little system where they have reusable rags that got incorporated into the cleaning system of the school to reduce waste. And so it was great math and then taking action. And so there's various examples here of different projects that teachers have been doing. And then there are resources that are on this site as well. Some of the ones I would recommend for younger students too are around nature journaling and just getting outside and really connecting students with nature, so that they are motivated to take action and build a really strong sense of identity as being a part of nature and not separate from it. So there's a wonderful, there are wonderful free teaching resources for nature journaling. And then actually, I would recommend also, yeah, I mean, there's just so much out there. I guess I would say, look at what action you're interested in, and then look for resources more specific to that action, rather than going straight to a resource. And I can definitely share some examples of the types of actions that teachers do with students for climate action that are part of the tools that the Be Wet program from NOAA provides. So I'll drop that in the chat as well. Does that help at all?
Definitely,
Okay.
definitely help. This is a good start. I think
there's-
any more, I would still be overwhelmed. So right now,
Okay.
this is a good start.
Yeah.
And there's also this
Thank you.
partner portal, which I'm not sure which area you're in, but that's a searchable database of environmental education partner programs, field trips, but also resources. So you might find some inspiration there as well.
Awesome.
Amity,
Thank
when
you
you
so
get
much.
when you get a chance, I would put that partner portal in there because we did have another question about resources websites about various volunteer opportunities
Mm-hmm.
from all over California. So that would help with that question
Yes.
as well.
Yep.
Thank you all for having 3. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and then I'm going to, unless somebody had a burning question, I'm going to put you back into your breakouts from the original, just for a quick check-in about what your thinking is now on that Venn, and what your takeaways are from the session. I'm just going to look though, because I think I might have to move people to make sure we have.
And we have a few more people than before.
Yeah.
So, do you want me to put the
All right.
PDF of the Venn in the chat for people that just jumped in?
Sure. Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to open rooms. Oh, that's weird. Why is it telling me close all rooms? Are they open already?
It told me to go to room 3.
Oh, okay. So if people look under the rooms, it should send you to a room, and I'm going to I can help move you if you're having a hard time finding it.
I think they all went.
Oh,
I think
okay.
it's just the 3 of us again.
Okay.
When I send the Venn diagram, does it go to the breakout rooms too, or no? I don't know how Zoom works.
Okay.
They'll be
Sorry.
fine. They'll
I
be
just
fine.
moved. I was just moving to make sure people got into rooms where everybody's where there's at least 2 people. Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I don't know if the Venn handout
It's okay.
goes through when they're in, but they'll just chat about what they learned, which was
exactly
the idea,
exactly.
basically.
Always good. And I think
Welcome back, everybody. Any ahas about in that little quick moment that you got to touch base with somebody else from the session that you want to share out? And I'm going to put the feedback form in the chat.
what I have it.
Love feedback. Did you
I
already
got
put
it.
in? Oh,
I got
okay,
it.
great. Okay. So please, please, please do the feedback form. We would love to get feedback, and then we'd also invite anybody to share any highlights from your little quick pairing up. And then our contact information is here too. Please do feel free to follow up with questions about any of this. We're happy to answer, provide more resources or share more information.
Remember, everybody, there is 5 minutes, right? So it's a short period in between the sessions. So I guess a 5-minute passing period is not too bad, but
Yeah, especially virtually.
yeah.
And It's 10:25, so we want to make sure you have all that time to figure out where you'll head next. Thanks for being a part of the session, and
Bye,
good luck.
everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thanks
Thank
for the
you.
feedback.